evening. I'm Ingrid Keller, Executive Director of the Western Piedmont Symphony. And it's my pleasure to welcome you this evening to our first watch party of 2021. As always, I like to say, cheers. And before we go any further, I have to, of course, say thanks to our watch party series sponsors. And our series sponsor is Von Drell Corporation. They are sponsoring this series in memory of their founders, Pat and Frank Von Drell. And what a wonderful tribute that they decided to make to the people who started a wonderful company. Thank you, Von Drell Corporation. And tonight's event sponsor is Greystone Eye. Thank you so much to Greystone for your support for tonight's watch party, which is featuring several of our wonderful community partners for the upcoming Concerts for the Community. If you enjoy tonight's free event, please consider making a donation to the Western Piedmont Symphony to support our ongoing efforts to bring you quality music experiences. And now it's my pleasure to say cheers to my friend, partner, colleague, Maestro Matthew Troy. Cheers, Maestro.
Cheers, Ingrid. Great to see you tonight. Thank you so much for that introduction. And welcome to everybody tuning in out there tonight for our first watch party of 2021. Tonight, we are so excited to be talking to you about the music that you will see coming up, played live again by our musicians of the Western Piedmont Symphony on these Concerts for Community. There are two of these concerts. The first one is happening on March 6th, and the second follows on April 26th. And as you may know, both of these programs really focus heavily on the importance of a lot of different cultural organizations right here in the Hickory area. And so we've got unique partnerships built around all of those. All of these organizations have faced the COVID-19 crisis with incredible bravery and resilience and innovation to keep all of these important cultural organizations alive. And these organizations, very much like the Western Piedmont Symphony, have really been working tirelessly and stretching our creative efforts to the max to make sure that we're continuing to bring quality programming to the community. And so I think this has given us a chance to reflect on things, the things that really matter to all of our organizations. And I can tell you certainly from the Western Piedmont Symphony that the two things that matter the most are the music and you, the audience. And so we're really thrilled for you to join us this evening, but also to get back to something that resembles normal as we go further into the spring. So tonight, the first guest that we're joined by is a friend of mine and colleague of mine, Dr. Ryan Loers. And Ryan is the new director of the Hickory Choral Society and has been working very hard and has been very innovative during the COVID-19 crisis. And the opening work on our March 6th program is a work by the composer Morten Lauridsen called O Magnum Mysterium. And this is a hugely popular choral work normally when you hear it done. And but it's one that we will present with our string section of the Western Piedmont Symphony. But it does allow us to at least honor the relationship and the close tie between the Choral Society and the Symphony. And just as a nod to say how much we miss being on the stage with them every year. So Ryan, welcome to tonight's program. And thank you so much for joining me. And I guess to get things started, Ryan, maybe you can just introduce yourself, but also tell us a little bit about what has it been like to get started in a new position, not so different than what I've had to do, but get started in a new position and lead the Choral Society through the pandemic.
Right. Well, thanks for having me on tonight. And I can tell you, it's been a ride. Because of the pandemic, of course, the choir has not yet met in person since my hiring last spring. So on the one hand, it's been really frustrating because you don't have you have the absence of key elements of choral singing, such as hearing the other singers around you and feeding off the energy of a live audience and those really important informal social interactions. Not to mention my role as a conductor, where my job in a rehearsal is to listen to what I hear and then offer feedback to the choir based on what I hear. And I can't do that right now. It's not possible when we're rehearsing over Zoom. But on the other hand, we've really tried to focus on what we can do and take advantage of opportunities that might even be unique to us right now in this time. One of those being the virtual choir performance of Undivided, which is a project in collaboration with the Catawba Valley Community College, Lenore and Youth Chorus, and LRU choirs. So 200 singers strong, as you see on the screen there. And we were singing about, being undivided as a culture, as we were responding to all the division we have in our country, politically and culturally. So despite the frustration and the reality that there's no replacement for in-person music making, it's been inspiring, really inspiring and rewarding to work with these singers, these committed singers who got on board not only with a new conductor this year, but a new way of doing choral music that we've never really done before.
Yeah, I think that is just an amazing feat, obviously, what you've done. And I do applaud you for making it so relevant and doing things that address the issues that are going on in the country that we're all experiencing. And those are very, very important to all of our organizations, I know. So just before the pandemic started, I know one of the great pleasures that I had in my first season as music director with the symphony was the collaboration between the symphony and the choral organizations in the area, including the Choral Society, on Dan Forrest's Jubilate Deo, which was just a fantastic concert. So was wondering if you could just give us a little bit of your insight on what that experience was like for you and why you're so eager to get back to more moments like that.
Yeah, well, first of all, composer Dan Forrest and the Hickory Choral Society go way back. The Choral Society commissioned his Requiem for the Living for its 35th anniversary. It's a major work that's been performed around the country and around the world. And Dan's working on a new piece right now that was commissioned to honor our founding conductor, Don Coleman. But the performance, I mean, it was a thrill to be on that stage, a true community performance that involved the orchestra and again, Lenore Rhine choirs and CVCC, but also the music itself was an expression of music inspired by musical cultures from around the world. So it was a communal expression on multiple levels. On a personal level, it was one of the few occasions as of late I got to sing in a choir, thanks to you taking the conducting duties.
Sure.
And I must say that also that seeing you work with a choir, that you have some choral chops in your back pocket that you can pull out when you need to.
I do. I tell you, as a conductor, working with choirs and working with singers is one of my all-time favorite things to do. So I truly do relish those opportunities to work with choirs. But thank you, Ryan. And you were holding down the bass section admirably that evening as well.
I was so excited. I mean, my throat was coming out of my, I was really kind of fired up about that performance, and it was certainly fun and memorable to sing under your baton.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That's incredible. Okay, so the work that we will feature on our concert again is a work by Morton Lardson. It's called O Magnum Mysterium. And like I said, it's a hugely popular choral work. So what can you tell us about that piece, what it means to you, and also his work in general? Anything you'd like to share in that regard?
Yeah, well, that's another work that the Choral Society has performed multiple times, including, I think the last time the Choral Society performed in person, Christmas 2019, it was on the program. And for me personally, I think there are fewer choral compositions to which I have a closer connection or find more meaning. It takes me back to my junior year in college, singing in the Luther College Collegiate Chorale. And as a stressed out, sleep-deprived college student, that opening chord, I don't know what it is, because it's not just a triad in first inversion. Sorry to get too nerdy.
It's got a ninth in there. Not to get too technical. We're getting technical now, but
yes, it's got that extra note that just has a little something extra that captures. It's both dissonant and consonant at the same time. But whatever it is going on, it would often bring me to tears, and I'd have a difficult time singing the piece. So I went to college wanting to be a band director, and it was experiences like that that really influenced my decision to also pursue choral music. I found out that I really love text as well. But interestingly enough, as I think you're going to find out, this piece really works well with transcription. There's a transcription for band and for strings. And we're just grateful that you are including it and including us as part of this program.
We're so happy to have you. And yes, it's a work that stands in my memory too. I had a an experience with it when I was about the same age as you were actually singing it. So it's been kind of in my head for a long time, and it is great to combine it with the Choral Society for this. So now we're going to hear a clip of this work. This is a performance sung by the St. Jacob's Youth Choir in Stockholm, Sweden. And as Ryan said, we will be performing the string orchestra version when you hear the concert on March 6th. But I think this piece calms the mind, stimulates the ear, and I think it helps prepare not only our brain, but also our heart for the rest of what will follow on the program. So now we'll hear just a little bit of this, O Magnum Mysterium. All right. Well, again, thank you, Ryan, so much for joining us tonight. Thanks for being part of this collaboration between the Symphony and the Hickory Choral Society. And obviously, I can't wait to get back and share the stage again with you sometime soon. But until then, are there any final thoughts that you have, or anything else that the audience out there tonight should know about that the Choral Society has coming up soon in the spring?
Sure. If I could plug our next concert, which is Sunday, March 21st at 3 p.m. on our YouTube channel. We'll be premiering a new 10-minute work called Alleluia from Quarantine by Spokane, Washington-based composer Josh Schenk. To me, it's music that captures both the struggle and the pain, but also the hope and resilience of the human spirit that I'm experiencing in the community right now. And the visuals that will be displayed in the video while we're singing will be the ways in which people in our community, our Hickory community, have used creativity to stay connected to each other. I mean, tonight, for example, even though we're not together in the same room, but we're finding ways to stay connected. So that's March 21st at 3 p.m.
All right. Thank you again, Ryan. We'll make sure to tune in for that concert. And now we've got a quick message about the Western Piedmont Symphony's annual fund.
Hi, I'm Ingrid Keller.
And I'm Matthew Troy.
If you have made a donation this year to the Western Piedmont Symphony, thank you. We are so grateful for your contribution, especially during this tumultuous time.
Thanks to these donations, we are really close to meeting our annual fund goal.
Donations made to the annual fund provide opportunities for our community in education, economic impact, creativity, and inspiration.
Consider making a donation today to the Western Piedmont Symphony to support all of these great programs to impact our community.
Donating is easy.
So easy.
So just click the link.
And thank you for supporting the Western Piedmont Symphony. Okay, up next, now I have the pleasure of introducing Reverend Antonio Logan and also Reverend Sandy Hood, who are representing our partnership with the Greater Hickory Ministerial Alliance and also the Hickory Area Ministers Association. The faith community here in Hickory is very important to this area, and it's also a very active community here in this region. And I'm so excited to be joined by them this evening. And Reverend Logan, let's start with you, and was just hoping that you would take a minute and introduce yourself to us, for those of us who don't know you, and also tell us a little bit about your role here in the Hickory area and your organization.
Hello, it's my pleasure to be with you, and I'm Pastor Logan. First of all, I'm a pastor of Friendship Missionary Baptist Church in Hickory of 17 years. Also, I'm the president of the Greater Hickory Ministerial Alliance, an alliance of predominantly African-American ministers that come together to encourage one another, to have annual services where we come together with congregations and the city and community to bring each other together and encourage one another and have service and whatever your calendar may bring. And it's been a great special time together, and that is our option to do.
Thank you. And again, showing so much resilience in the face of these challenges. So we applaud you for that. And also now, Reverend Hood, if you would introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your work here in the community.
Sure. Well, it is great to be with you all this evening. And I work with Carolina Caring, but I also am president of the Hickory Area Ministers, and we and just have the wonderful opportunity to work with Reverend Logan and other ministers across the area. We work to come together across racial and denominational lines to celebrate diversity and to work together to be unified and to develop relationships with one another, but to also offer worship services for the community and to bring the community together in unity.
I think that's such a great effort, and it's such important work that you both are doing. And we like to embrace those same concepts and use our music and use the symphony to promote that same effort of bringing the community together. So thank you both for being here tonight and those introductions. So on this concert on March 6th, we are going to be playing, actually probably one of the more significant works on the program is a piece called Spirituals for Strings, and this is by the composer Morton Gould. And for the audience out there, Morton Gould was a famous American composer, but it seems his music has recently kind of fallen by the wayside in recent years, but his writing is incredible and his compositional output is just very significant. So if you don't know his music, I encourage you to go look up more of his music. And this may also be the first time in my life that I'm conducting a concert with two composers named Morton. I don't know what's up with that. Maybe the name Morton is making a comeback. Who knew? So, but Reverend Hood, let's start with you. Maybe you can tell us just a little bit from your experience as a minister. What do spirituals mean to you? What has your experience been with them, and how do they differ from other songs of worship?
Spirituals are so important to who we are as believers, as a body of believers. They draw us back to our legacy. with our ancestors, our grandmothers, our great grandparents, on down the line. They're touch points to God, really. And how they differ from a regular hymn, so to speak, is when I walk into Reverend Logan's church, I am transformed by what I hear. And my heart, it just swells with the music there, because it speaks a language. The music there speaks a language that transcends anything that I could speak. And that, I think, sums it up in a nutshell of what a spiritual is.
I think that's a good way of viewing things, and I know I certainly have that same experience when I hear that music as well, which is one of the reasons I was drawn to this piece. And so some of the spirituals that are featured in this work, it's kind of a collection of spirituals. This piece is, it has different movements, and so what's also interesting is that you see them sometimes blended together or laid on top of one another in this piece, which is really interesting as well. So we've got songs like Old Time Religion, Were You There, which is beautifully blended, as I said, with the spiritual Steal Away, All God's Children Got Wings, Calvary, He Never Said a Mumbling Word, and then finally closing with Ezekiel Saw the Wheel. So Reverend Logan, of those hymns, those spirituals, I should say, do you have a favorite, and do you have a particular association or memory associated with any of those songs?
I'm very acquainted with everyone that you spoke of, and all of them are nearest and dearest to my heart. But at Calvary stands out so much to me now, because as the world is progressing and becoming more modern with technology, sometimes we have a tendency to drift away from the true foundation. But at Calvary, it talks about our Savior Christ, what suffering to the extremities he did for humanity and the things we're going through. Surely if he could lay down his life and suffer to those degrees, certainly we can make it through what we're going through without suffering half as much. That old time religion, it didn't fail our sisters and our brothers back then. It brought them through. And if it's good enough for them, certainly it is a proving tried stone that we can get through also.
That's right. That's right. And Reverend Logan, let me ask you this too. Is there something that you think that you would like to discuss or share with the audience tonight about what is it about spirituals that are so uniquely American? They seem to be part of the American experience, our collective consciousness, our history with race, our history with the blending of cultures, the blending of music. I think that's an interesting topic to probe a little bit. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that are.
Well, today, most of the time, record deals, they're making records and singing songs for the number one, for the money or the top of the charts. But back in those days, they were singing out of experiences that brought them out and what maintained them. They reach back and grab a hold of that and sing what made them through. As we mentioned before, when the Lord brought Israel through the Red Sea, and soon as they got through and Pharaoh was destroyed on the other side, before they even went to the destination, Miriam grabbed the tambourine and they began to sing a new song, an unrehearsed song, a song that began to rise up out of her bosom, a song that, so these songs are sung out of experience, and they change the atmosphere. They take us from earth to heaven. They take us from sadness to joy. So they are singing out of experiences, and it changes our hearts, changes the attitude, changes the world.
I think that's a great answer. And there is that yearning that you often hear in the music, but again, moments of great celebration, any kind of true, intense life experience, I think, is reflected in the voice of spirituals. And so we're going to hear just a little bit of a short clip of the piece that we'll be performing on March 6th, the Gould Spirituals for Strings. And this is the Gospel Train and Old Time Religion. All right, so you can hear the gospel train slowing down there at the end for that work. Reverend Logan, Reverend Hood, thank you all so much for joining us this evening, for being a part of this effort as we bring the community together through music. Any final thoughts that you would like to share with us? Reverend Hood, let's start with you first.
Well, I just would like to say that if you have the opportunity, we are doing lunch and learn, Lent at lunch services where we bring the community together. African American pastors are preaching at Discovery Church for the next 2 weeks. Wonderful pastors. We have Reverend Diane Conley and Reverend Cassandra Rawls from 12 to 1, and there'll be a takeaway lunch. And then following that, we will have 3 Caucasian pastors preaching at Morning Star First Baptist Church from 12 to 1 on Wednesdays for the next 5 Wednesdays during Lent. Also, if you have a chance and you can come to the Martin Luther King service every year, which is always just a wonderful tradition in our community, a very special time where we come together. We invite you to attend that and be on the lookout because we do so many other things and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Reverend Hood. And that service is indeed great. It was on my birthday that year. So I enjoyed that service very much. I was in the room then pre-COVID, as they say. So Reverend Logan, any final thoughts from you?
Sort of echoing on what Reverend Hood said, what we're doing to bridge the gap and bring unity and harmony among all the people is that we are doing the Lent services. We have 3 services where the Black minister stands in the white pulpit and preaches, and then after we break bread and eat, and then the next 3 where a white minister will stand in the Black pulpit, and then I'm learning that we learn to embrace one another, not just by talking about experiencing, worshiping, breaking bread, and sitting down, fellowship, and collaborating and conversing. That's what unifies us most, and we're happy to be a part of that.
Thank you. Very, very important message. Again, thank you both for being here this evening. And so now we are going to hear just a short word about some of the fantastic education programs that we have going on at the Western Piedmont Symphony.
Did you know that each year the Western Piedmont Symphony performs education programs for more than 10,000 students in 8 different counties?
Wow!
Whether we play with the full symphony, small ensembles, or visiting musicians, the symphony has the right school program for everybody. It's enough to make you say, wow! Through the Link Up program, the Western Piedmont Symphony works directly with every elementary music teacher in Catawba, Burke, and Caldwell counties to include the symphony in their curriculum.
Wow!
These students learn the same music on recorders that we perform on our concert. So when they come to see us in the spring, they get to play along with us.
Wow, now that's what I call education.
If your children have been inspired by one of our education programs, or if you just appreciate what we do for local students, consider making a donation to your Western Piedmont Symphony today.
What was that? Somebody just donated to the symphony.
Wow!
As you can see, we like to keep things fun in our education department specifically. And keeping in that same vein of keeping things nice and fun, I am so excited tonight to introduce our next guest, John David Brown, who is representing our partnership with the Green Room Theater. And David is familiar to many of you here in the arts community. In fact, you probably know him better than I do, but I'm getting to know him and I'm excited to work with him through this partnership. He is a talented painter and performer, and on our concert coming up on March 6th, he will be narrating great work by Daniel Dorff, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's a very special retelling of this just timeless story. And so this seemed like a perfect fit for David, just due to the whimsical nature of his artwork and the focus on youth programming that the Green Room Theater does. And so I'm excited to welcome David to the program tonight. Welcome, David.
So excited to be here and to be a part of this performance.
Thank you. And so as I mentioned, I initially thought of you, even though I think we'd only met once or so before, it was briefly, but then we became acquainted on Facebook, which is even more important during COVID times, to get to know people. But I saw your artwork and was just immediately drawn to it. It's very unique, and so as a conductor, I tend to kind of just hold on to those things in my head and then wait and find the right opportunity to engage with them. And so I think this program does that. But your artwork was one of the reasons I thought of you for this piece. So the piece is very fun and descriptive, obviously tells the story of Goldilocks, but maybe can you tell us a little bit from your perspective about how it differs from the traditional telling of the story, and just any other favorite parts of it that you have?
Well, sure. I'm a huge fan of the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears anyway. I love fairy tales and folk stories, and I pull from them all the time in the work I do, both at the theater as well as in my visual art. And Goldilocks and the Three Bears has always been a particular favorite because it's a great story to teach perspectives. And I've used that over and over again in theater education. And wow, the piece, this particular version of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, is so delightful to hear the different perspectives of the instruments. And you could just feel the emotions of the different characters throughout the piece as they're represented by the different instruments. It differs, and the basic story is very, very much true to the original until you get towards the end. And kind of a spoiler alert, in this version, Goldilocks makes amends for her mistakes and mishaps, and she actually fixes the chair, which is pretty awesome, and then makes the bears a pancake supper.
Yeah, I think there's a beautiful message in there, right?
Yes, any story that ends with a pancake supper, I am for it.
Count me in too. I know exactly what you mean. So you touched on something I think that's really important to this piece just a second ago when you said that the characters are represented by instruments in the orchestra. This is obviously something that composers have used for a long time. You think of a piece like Peter and the Wolf, the clarinet playing the role of the cat, or the French horns playing the role of the wolf in Peter and the Wolf. And so lots of composers do this, but even though it's a method that's been used for quite a long time now, I think it's really important because it teaches young people and students to listen and to really identify characteristics through sound. And I think that's such an important skill to develop. So as you've gotten to know the piece and have gotten to know the different instruments that represent the characters, do you have a particular favorite? And it also makes me wonder, did you study any instruments possibly growing up?
Well, okay. So I love so many parts of this piece. I like how each of the three bears is represented differently, and then when they go for a walk together, it's all played together. It's really nice. And I also love how the instruments, of course, this is a little less about character, but it's woven in there. When Goldilocks sits on each of the chairs, the especially Mama Bear's squishy, soft chair. I mean, that's a great moment. Yeah. And as far as characters go, Mama Bear in particular stands out for me because there's something about the strings that when they're used for her, and there's something very calming about her movement. And that just stood out for me. And I did piano growing up. And after I graduated, I studied viola for a few years myself.
Yeah, I think we talked about that earlier. A fellow violist. I had no idea, actually. I would have chosen you for that reason alone if I would have known. So I have to ask you too, have you had any other experiences as a narrator? And just kind of curious how you think that this may be somewhat different than other times that you've been on stage as an actor and performer.
Well, I absolutely have had a lot of experiences as a narrator because I like storytelling is just kind of what I do. That's sort of like in everything I do. And I also love the role of the narrator, just in plays and movies, to, for that matter. I think there's something like that connects the voice of the narrator with story. And I don't know if it's because I've always been a big fan of books, and that there's something about the written word and a performance that the narrator kind of bridges that gap. So I think the way it's written in this is very classic theater. It feels very natural to me to be a part of this. It's sort of like a script that I would have on stage, except for instead of the actors doing the lines, that the musicians will be.
So you do feel like a sense of freedom, though, in terms of like being expressive through. You're not just standing up there reading the script, but it does give you some room to develop your character as a narrator, I should say.
Sure, it's sort of like it bridges the connection between the story and the audience.
Great. Okay. Well, very great to hear from you on that, those inside thoughts from you on that. So we're so glad that you and the Green Room Theater obviously are part of this. Now, what else should we know about your artwork? I did want to touch on that this evening, and also any events that you have coming up at the Green Room Theater.
Okay, well, so as you said, I'm a director at the theater, but I also am a visual artist, and I define my artwork as whimsical storybook folk style art paintings. My art, to me, is an opportunity to play with color and character. I usually focus on subjects or situations that bring people joy. Lots of illustration influences in my work, lots of graphic design. My goal is to bring smiles to the viewer by connecting them with fun and happy memories. And just like with my theater work, a lot of inspiration comes from childhood experiences or stories that I've read.
I think that's it just resonates so deeply with us, because I think that seems so similar to what the orchestra, I think, it strives to do. It's just brings back those strong memories, makes those associations. There's so much, they're just entire worlds that we can explore together through what your medium is, what my medium is. And so it's just really fascinating to see that. And it was great to see those works of art up on the screen there. You do also have them for sale, right? Don't you have a new Etsy? I hate to just do a totally shameless plug for you, but I'll kind of do it. There's a new Etsy shop or something, isn't there?
I do sell my art on Etsy. John David Brown, the number 3 art. That's my shop. So
all right. Well, thank you, David. We really appreciate you being a part of this, and I can't wait to rehearse this and perform this with you. And I'm sure the audience, it'll be a real treat for them to see you in this role as well. So
thank you for letting us be a
of
part
course, appreciate you being here. And so now we've got a short word about our incredible volunteers here at the Western Piedmont Symphony, the Tempos.
The Western Piedmont Symphony is thrilled to have a corps of volunteers like the Tempos. Tempos is a dedicated group of volunteers who give their time and talent to the advancement of the symphony's mission. Jobs include house manager, office assistant, ticket scanner, ushers, article writers, and much more. Last year, Tempos accounted for over 1,300 hours of service. Want to make a difference? Email volunteer@wpsymphony.org to join Tempos.
All right. Well, what a wonderful evening we've had so far already, with hearing from all the different partners who are part of this upcoming concert on March 6th. But we have a few more works on the program that we haven't yet touched on. So Matt, I think now would be a great time for you to tell us about those pieces and why you chose those as well.
Sure. Again, partnerships were what was constantly running through my head as I was programming these concerts. But one of the pieces that will follow is the incredible work by the British composer Edward Elgar. This is his famous string serenade. I mean, this is certainly one of, if not my all-time favorite string serenade that's out there of the composers that did them. It's beautiful music. and it has that very distinctly British sound to it, which is always charming and nice to hear. And it does, if you know Elgar's music in detail, you know that this kind of foreshadows some of the characteristics that you do find later in his other works, like his large work Enigma Variations. We often know the tune Nimrod, and so the slow movements from the string serenade is almost a precursor to that piece. And so it's fascinating to hear that. And Elgar was a violinist and a string player in his own right, and was had a lot of experience with strings. And I think you can really sense that in the way that the music is written. It's just written in a way that just feels good as a string player. It fits well within our hands. It's very comfortable. It's very playable. And as a composer, he does a great job of just helping the instruments sound the best that they can sound. He brings out the most beautiful aspects of the instruments. And during this presentation and this performance of the Elgar String Serenade, we're also thrilled to be partnering with the Catawba Valley Camera Club. And so throughout the piece, that evening, as you live stream the performance, you will see incredible photography. There was almost just too much to choose from because of how many great photographs there are. But this music is very vivid in terms of how it depicts landscapes, the beauty of nature. And so it seemed like a perfect pairing with the Catawba Valley Camera Club. And so we're thrilled to have them be a part of this partnership. And we wanted to give you a little tease of that music tonight. So we're going to hear just the first movement from the Elgar String Serenade now. This is performed by the Concertgebouw Chamber Orchestra.
While we will not view it this evening, we will close our concert for the community with a re-airing of the Barber Adagio that we recorded in the fall. The project was titled 2020, a musical response, and we're putting a link in the chat so that you can view the video in high definition as it was intended to be viewed, but make sure you click on it at the conclusion of this program, which will be very shortly. This video was the Western Piedmont Symphony's response to the year of 2020, which was a year that was challenging, full of unrest and a lot of uncertainty. However, it was also a year that allowed us to reevaluate what was important to us and to really examine who we would like to be. Matt, will you just tell us a bit more about this project and the great impact that it had?
Sure, Ingrid. Thank you for introducing it that way. I think what you said is so important. I mean, the 2020 was just it was a very difficult year, obviously, for all of us. It was very easy to become feeling depressed, feeling hopeless, even at times. There was so much uncertainty for all of us, and it was quite a roller coaster. And so that was really primarily around the issue of COVID. And then there was also the unrest, the important racial unrest that was going on, the events surrounding George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. And those were on top of countless previous examples of similar situations. And so things were reaching a new crescendo, a new fever pitch. And so it really became obvious to me that we, the Western Piedmont Symphony, needed to make a statement about this year. It was a year that was unlike any other year. And so it seemed like this project and this piece, I thought, could really encapsulate our musical response, and really as a way to bring the community together, much like these concerts are designed to, through music, to demonstrate the power of music, the power of our shared humanity, and these shared experiences that we have surrounding art and music, and how it lifts us to find our better selves always. And so this project not only entailed a collaboration with the Hickory Museum of Art, and they had an amazing Black Lives Matter wall that was part of this project, but also artwork by Dr. Summer Carroll, and just beautiful, beautiful videography by our friend and supporter Justin Reich, who did the videography for this. So just a really important project, and we encourage you, if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. And like Ingrid said, it will close out the program on March 6th. Again, I think it just reaffirms our efforts, reaffirms what our stance is, and how passionately we believe in the power of music to bring us all together. So Ingrid, thank you for being here. Reverend Logan, Reverend Hood, David, Dr. Lures, Ryan Lures, thank you so much for being here with us tonight and being a part of this. And thank you to the audience for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you virtually at this concert on March 6th. The tickets are on sale now, so please get those tickets, and just help me in thanking all of these important community partnerships and this amazing effort of coming together through music.
Thank you, Maestro. And yes, thank you to all of our community partners for being a part of this incredible effort to bring our community together through music. Before you all go, let's recognize and say thanks to our sponsors. So first off, thank you to our Watch Party series sponsor, Vondrell Corporation, who are sponsoring this series in memory of their founders, Pat and Frank Vondrell. Again, thank you, Vondrell Corporation. And thanks to Greystone Eye, our event sponsor for tonight. We appreciate your support of this watch party very much, and how appropriate that Greystone Eye is a sponsor of a watch party. Thank you, Greystone. And if you enjoyed tonight's free event, please consider making a donation to the Western Piedmont Symphony to support our ongoing efforts to bring you quality music experiences. And as Maestro Troy said, please please do join us for our concert for the community on March 6th at 7:30 with these wonderful partner organizations who you've heard from and about tonight. Tickets are on sale for these concerts and others on our website. So please go to our website, which is wpsymphony.org/tickets for more information about purchasing those tickets. And again, thank you so much. I'm Ingrid Keller, Executive Director of the Western Piedmont Symphony. We thank you for joining us for this evening's watch party and hope to see you soon. Good night.